We are covering breaking news right now as reports have just come out about a possible active shooter that's happening at the Warren Clinic on South Yale. There is a huge police presence right now. We know that all special operations team members, the bomb squad, and other officers in that area were told to immediately get to the Warren Clinic just as fast as they can. We do have Bob Roloff, one of our storm chasers, at the scene as well. This is his live picture. As you can see, again, a huge police response as reports go out of an active shooter. We are getting unconfirmed reports that we don't want to share right now, but we think that the situation is, if not under control, quickly getting under control at this moment. Of course, we're going to be talking to numerous officers and sources, and we will bring you just the latest as soon as we have it. But right now, as you can see, officers responding en masse to the Warren Clinic on South Yale after reports of an active shooter of a man with a rifle. We're going to gather more information, get information confirmed, and then we will pass it along to you.
Again, we're following breaking news right now, an active shooter situation at the Warren Clinic near 61st and South Yale. Let's go right to police.
Can you tell us what time you got the call and what building?
I don't know what time. We're talking, this all transpired within the last 20 minutes. So I would imagine that the building is the Natalie building here. I believe the address is 6475 South Yale or thereabouts. It's obviously behind us here. We have all of Yale shut down here. Do not come out here. Do not come out here for any other reason. If you have loved ones inside, we understand. We are working this problem out. You know, if you want to call and contact, we're going to have a staging point for people as soon as we can get it going. But we're working with St. Francis on this situation. It's a huge scene, and we're going to get through this as quickly as we can.
Let's go to Dustin right now in Sky News 6. He's flying above the scene. Dustin, do you have something new from your perspective?
That's right, Lori. When we first got here, there was a lot of first responders that were running in a full sprint, carrying all their equipment, running up to the front door of this building that we're looking at. In the last few minutes, they've all kind of just gathered outside as they're trying to get their plan together. They mentioned that they were going floor by floor, trying to make sure that everyone's accounted for. I will tell you that Yale is completely shut down from 61st to 71st, and we actually heard them say, do not come down to this area. They've got it blocked off. There's not a way to get in, so just avoid the area until they can get this under control and start getting everybody accounted for, Lori.
But Dustin, it's a much different situation right now than compared to even just a little bit ago when you first got above this scene, right?
Absolutely, Craig. Like I said, when we first got here, there was still a lot of police officers and first responders arriving to the scene. So, and there was still lots of traffic in the area. So we did see lots of firemen and paramedics running to the front door, carrying backboards and bags and all their equipment. I don't know if they knew exactly what they were running into, but they stopped just short of the front door, and it looks like they've kind of gathered there and then have gotten their plan together. So right now, we see a lot more people just kind of standing there, just evaluating the situation, Craig.
Right now, we want to go to this Sky News 6 shot. Tulsa police officers with guns drawn are on the roof of the building there near 61st and Yale, obviously being very cautious as they search for any possible second gunman. We understand the gunman has been shot. We don't know if that was by police, self-inflicted, or by maybe somebody who was in that facility in the Natalie building. But you can see officers right now very carefully with their weapons drawn, searching the roof area of that building. So they'll be searching the roof, they'll be searching all the office areas, the stairwells, break rooms, you name it. They're going to be methodically going through that entire building to make sure there is no one else who is armed in that building before they give the all clear. Right now, we want to go back to crime reporter Reagan Ledbetter, who is out on the scene right now. I know, Reagan, you're working to gather more information and to confirm some details. Give us the latest information.
Yeah, Craig, I keep checking with the officers that are standing next to me over here just to see if they've cleared the building yet. I know that was the big focus right now. First and foremost priority is making sure the building is clear before they lift the lockdown, let people to come back out, reunite with their families. I don't know for sure. They don't know for sure because they're on a tactical channel if they have actually cleared the building, but I am seeing some of Tulsa Police's homicide detectives. They just gathered right here behind me, and they started working their way into the hospital campus area. There's a group of about 5 or 6 6 detectives that are making their way towards those doors over there. So that tells me, from my experience of being out here, that means they're getting in the process of starting the investigation of what happened. But as Lori said, a lot of conflicting reports right now. We're hearing a lot of information about who the victims are or what the circumstances of that. But we're going to be smart about this. We're not going to report things that we don't have confirmed on this right now.
Greg, close to 3 hours after this first kicked off, and family members are still here, waiting to hear from their loved ones who may have been at at an appointment or could have been working there, or like Mackenzie said, maybe someone that was just stopping by. A lot of them still might not have answers about what's been going on to their loved ones, but this is where they're asked to come, this reunification site at Memorial High. We've seen a couple more cars start to filter in. Police are guiding them over towards the front over here, and we've seen people embrace one another. We've seen some loved ones who have finally met with the people that they've been waiting on, but we also see plenty of folks who are still waiting, their arms folded. They're clearly still very pensive, just waiting for answers. I mean, can you imagine 3 hours after this and you are still waiting to hear from your loved one? It's tough for the people who are out here.
Oklahoma's own News on 6 starts now with breaking news.
And we begin with that breaking news here at 6 as Dr. Deborah Gist resigns as superintendent of Tulsa Public Schools.
This comes during a major dispute with State Superintendent Ryan Walters and 2 days before a key vote by the state on the district's accreditation. News on 6's Caitlin Deggs starts us off with our team coverage. She's live with what Gist wrote in her resignation letter today. Caitlin?
Craig and Lori, Dr. Gist sent out a letter to district employees this afternoon saying that she'll be stepping down in an effort to try to keep the state superintendent from stripping the district's accreditation. In her letter, she explains that she's leaving because she believes it's the best way to keep the state from taking over the schools. She mentioned State Superintendent Ryan Walters and says it's not a secret that our state superintendent has an unrelenting focus on our district and specifically on me. And I'm confident that my departure will help to keep our democratically elected leadership and our team in charge of our schools. She says her decision to leave is the hardest thing that she's ever done, and having this job was a dream come true. Gist says the board will consider her resignation in the appointment of interim superintendent Dr. Ebony Johnson. And Gist says that she'll be stepping away from her role as state superintendent on September 15th. Live in Tulsa, Caitlin Deggs, Oklahoma's own News on 6.
Tulsa Mayor G.T. Bynum issued a statement in response that says, "I am incredibly grateful for the service of Dr. Deborah Gist to our community throughout her time as Tulsa Public Schools superintendent. Dr. Gist took on some of the greatest challenges facing Tulsa students, from substandard teacher pay that makes it difficult for us to compete with other states, to student safety amidst the greatest public health crisis in our city's history. On their behalf and on behalf of our city," he says, "I want to thank Dr. Gist for all she has done for Tulsa." Deborah Gist has been superintendent of Tulsa Public Schools for 8 years now, and she is a Tulsa native.
News on 6's Jonathan Cooper has more of our team coverage. Jonathan?
Craig and Lori, Deborah Gist took over the role of superintendent on July 1st, 2015. It was a monumental hire at the time as she became the first female superintendent in the district's history. Now, Gist joined us on the News on 6 at 4 p.m. just a couple of weeks ago, and we spoke with her for about 15 minutes. She told us being superintendent of the district has been her lifelong dream as a Tulsa native. She's a graduate of Memorial High School and held teaching positions at both Grimes and Carnegie Elementary Schools. During the pandemic, she also stepped in to substitute teach as the district struggled to find teachers and subs. She says her proudest moment as superintendent was in 2018, taking part in the teacher walkout and march to the Capitol building. Her tenure, though, also came with some controversy and got pushback from state leaders, including Governor Kevin Stitt, who called for a special audit of the district after some funds went missing. Stitt was also critical of her handling of the COVID-19 pandemic within the district, and at one point, she called the governor a bully. Earlier this month, when we spoke with Gist live on air, she was non-committal in whether she would resign, something State Superintendent Ryan Walters had called for. Do you have any plans to resign at any point since he is calling for a change in leadership?
You know, I think one thing that people need to think about when you consider an analogy like that is that you have to think about what is the quality of the bus? Does it have 4 tires? Does it have any gas? Is the road washed out? You know, there's a lot that you can do with something like that, but here's the thing. Here's what matters most to Tulsa families. They know that their kids are starting school on August 17th. They want us focused on getting them there safely and making sure that while they're there, the best possible quality education is being provided to them and that they come home happy every day.
So do you plan on resigning? Are there any plans for that?
You know, this is my home. Tulsa is the school district that raised me. I graduated from these schools. Nothing matters to me more than Tulsa Public Schools.
Now, in her letter to staff today, Gist is asking the board to appoint Dr. Ebony Johnson as interim superintendent. TPS's Johnson is chief learning officer at TPS and has been there since 2005 as a teacher, teacher coach, assistant principal, and executive director of student and family support services. Now, in that letter, Gist calls Johnson a lifelong Tulsan, stellar educator, strong leader, and remarkable human being. The board will consider appointing Johnson at their meeting tomorrow night. Jonathan Cooper, Oklahoma's Own News on 6.
Oklahoma's Own News on 6 starts now.
You're OU football. He isn't. I'm not. Any other coach that comes here isn't.
First and 10, OU fans across the state are putting their faith in Bob Stoops as he takes over as interim football coach following Lincoln Riley's departure. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Craig Day. Riley's sudden exit comes at a huge cost for the Sooners as players and some recruits continue to leave the program. We have team coverage of this developing story that's making headlines across the country, starting with Sports Director John Holcomb. John?
Well, Craig, Lincoln Riley said at his introductory news conference at USC this afternoon that the deal came together quickly, late Saturday into Sunday before he accepted. Regardless of the timeline, it puts OU in a tough spot. Riley is taking several assistants with him, and Oklahoma's recruiting class has seen some decommitments from top players. But Bob Stoops steps in as the interim coach, and he was firm and positive with his remarks this afternoon.
This place is in a hell of a lot better shape than it was in December 1, 1998. All right, we're a perennial top 5, 10, 15 team every single year. All right, we're playing that kind of football. This job is going to attract the very best in the coaching world, and they're already lined up and calling.
No word on a timetable for hiring a new coach, and quarterback Spencer Rattler has entered the transfer portal. We'll have more from Norman in sports. Greg?
All right, thank you, John. In a statement to OU fans, Lincoln Riley said, "Leaving OU is probably the most difficult decision of my life." He says this was a personal decision solely based on my willingness to go take on a new challenge. And he adds, "I'll be a Sooner fan as long as I live." OU fans across the state are feeling shock, and some people are feeling anger following Riley's departure. News on 6's Kristen Weaver talked to fans in Tulsa about the announcement and what they hope to see next. She joins us live at OU Tulsa tonight. Kristen?
Well, Craig, students and alumni at OU say that they were coming off that heartbreaking loss to OSU when this news broke. They say that they are all thankful for Bob Stoops.
I was at home all day, recovering from the Bedlam loss.
That's when Josh Davis first heard about Lincoln Riley leaving OU to be the new head coach at USC. Davis is the student affairs director at OU Tulsa and a big Sooner fan.
You know, it's a coaching world. He had to make the decision that's best for him.
Today in a press conference, new interim coach Bob Stoops promised he would hit the ground running.
OU football's been here a long time, and it isn't going anywhere else. It's going to be here, and it's going to be in top of college football, and it's going to continue that way.
That gives fans a little hope.
We're excited about Bob Stoops coming back. Really, there's probably nobody that could step into that interim coach role and just hit the ground running like he can.
OU Club of Tulsa co-president Paige Cole says shocking is an understatement for how fans feel.
OU is a program that people don't leave from.
Students agree.
I just remember being pretty shocked.
Chase Gaddis, a med student at OU Tulsa, says he rushed home after hearing Riley was leaving and says he and his friends felt a little betrayal about it.
I guess he was right. He wasn't going to LSU. He was headed to USC.
But Gaddis says he also has his trust in Stoops to save the day.
The best is hopefully yet to come.
Now, all these OU fans, of course, are hopeful for a bowl game win, and they all say that the team is bigger than its coach. Live in Tulsa, Kristen Weaver, Oklahoma's Own, News on 6.
All right, now it's time to go to work. Yeah, now it's time to go to work.
We will have more coverage coming up later in our newscast as USC officially introduces Riley as the new coach of the Trojans.
You are putting a target on the back of your small businesses.
There's not a mask that you can buy that will stop the virus from coming straight through.
I'm sorry, but we needed to be masking 4 or 5 weeks ago.
We will never comply.
But have I not been more than fair, counselors? Have I not? I'm not asking. We're not talking to you.
Oklahoma's own News on 6 starts now.
First at 10 in a chaotic meeting, the Tulsa City Council unanimously passes a mask recommendation, not a mandate. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Craig Day.
And I'm Lori Fulbright. News on 6's Grant Stevens joins us live from City Hall to tell us more about what happened tonight. Grant?
Hey, Lori. Hey, Craig. There were several intense moments in that city council room tonight. Some people were escorted out by police. Other people yelled. But ultimately, the city voted to recommend wearing masks. The meeting almost immediately got heated when the council chairwoman Vanessa Hall Harper asked police to enforce the council's mask policy while they were inside city chambers. Several people were let out, some less willing than others. But for the first half of pro-mask comments, things went mostly smooth until Hall Harper temporarily suspended comment from the anti-mask side of the room after she said they repeatedly broke decorum.
It's suspend comments. Thank you. Multiple warnings. Multiple.
After about 15 minutes, the recess of that room cooled down. Temperatures cooled down, temperaments cooled down, and both sides got to present their arguments. There were still a few tense moments until the end, but ultimately, again, City Council votes unanimously to recommend mask wearing and recommend vaccinations. And again, I just want to be absolutely clear. This is not a mandate, only a recommendation to do those things. The city decided to table a vote or a discussion on a mandate until December, and this recommendation will take effect as soon as Mayor G.T. Bynum signs it. Live in Tulsa, Grant Stevens, Oklahoma's own News on 6.
And dozens of people opposed to mask mandates did protest outside of City Hall before and during that meeting. They say they are against any sort of mask ordinance, and they say they won't comply with a mask ordinance if there is one. But by the time they started gathering, the council had already decided it would not be voting tonight on a mask mandate.